Hello and welcome to AI Pe Charcha, which translates to AI Dialogues in English. The Responsible AI for Social Empowerment, RAISE 2020, was a global summit organized by the Government of India in October 2020. AI Pe Charcha is an extension of RAISE and seeks to engage with the AI innovation ecosystem to address the need of responsible AI through social empowerment. Through this monthly series, we invite global and domestic leaders in the Government of India and AI experts to discuss breakthroughs in AI innovations and its challenges. Today, we are bringing you yet another riveting dialogue based on the theme, How Telangana is Shaping Digital Transformation Through AI. And we have with us an excellent panel of speakers, senior leaders from the Government of India, the state of Telangana, and the industry. Let me begin the introductions. Mr. Abhishek Singh, President and CEO, National E-Governance Division, CEO, MyGov, and MD, Digital India Corporation. Mr. Singh is an officer of the 1995 batch of IAS with diverse experience of administration, managing law and order, implementing several national and state-level programs. In his role at National E-Governance Division, he coordinates projects relating to Digital India, especially Digital Locker, Umang Geoinformatics. He has been leading the efforts on communications on COVID-19 and is actively involved with Arogya Setu, the contact tracing app of Government of India, and the CoWIN app, the app facilitating vaccination and life savior efforts in India. Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, Principal Secretary, IT&C and Industries Department, Government of Telangana. Mr. Jayesh Ranjan is a member of the Indian Administrative Service of the 1992 batch and is working in the state of Telangana. Mr. Ranjan is the Principal Secretary of the Industries and Commerce and Information Technology, Electronics and Communications Departments of the Telangana government. His assignment involves developing policy frameworks, attracting new investments, identifying opportunities of utilizing IT in various government processes, and promoting digital empowerment of the citizens. Ms. Rama Devi Lanka, Director, Emerging Technologies, IT&C Department, Government of Telangana. Ms. Rama Devi Lanka is working as Director, Emerging Technologies, an officer on special duty at Information Technology, Electronics and Communications Department, Government of Telangana. Her role is to develop and implement a strategy for the state that would create a conducive ecosystem for the growth of emerging technologies and also help the state in leveraging emerging technologies for better governance. Mr. Snehanshu Mitra, CEO of Telangana AI Mission. As the CEO of Telangana AI Mission, Mr. Mitra is responsible for creating, nurturing, and scaling up a vibrant AI ecosystem that involves driving adoption of responsible AI, working with enterprises to co-innovate, conducting applied research, creating AI talent, accelerating AI startups, and leveraging AI for societal good. Mr. Varma S. Konala, CEO, Intel AI Center. Mr. Varma S. Konala is a 25-year Intel veteran with the first 5 years in design, testing, and validation, followed by 20 years in all facets of marketing, tech, product, planning, ecosystem enabling, and business development. He is deputed from Intel as the CEO of INAI, the Applied AI Research Center in IIIT Hyderabad, that is a public-private collaborative effort between Intel, IIIT Hyderabad, PHFI, and the Government of Telangana. Dr. Vineet N. Balasubramanian, Head AI and Associate Professor, IIT Hyderabad. Dr. Vineet N. Balasubramanian is an Associate Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at the Indian Institute of Technology, Hyderabad, and currently serves as the head of the Department of Artificial Intelligence at IIT Hyderabad. His research interests include deep learning, machine learning, and computer vision. A very warm welcome to all our esteemed speakers and viewers who have joined us. I now hand over to Mr. Abhishek Singh for the opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Barnali, and it's indeed my proud privilege to welcome such distinguished speakers for this episode of AI Pe Charcha. And AI Pe Charcha, as we all know, we started this initiative post RAISE 2020, which was done, the Responsible AI for Social Empowerment Summit that NEGD and MeitY hosted last year, which saw participation of AI experts from all over the country and globally. We had over 5 days, all aspects of AI related to healthcare, related to education, relating to skill development, relating to agriculture, relating to ethics, and responsible AI were deliberated in great detail. We had distinguished speakers from Carnegie Mellon University who gave insights with regard to how language technologies can be further enhanced with the use of AI and deep learning. So those 5 days were phenomenal. We got a lot of learnings. So thereafter, it was felt that we need to continue the dialogue, especially with the university and academia and the government, in order to see what all and in what ways we can accelerate the adoption of AI in government. And towards this objective, we have been organizing this monthly events, AI Pe Charcha, in which we invite experts from industry, from academia, and the governments and practitioners who have been using AI for building applications and for building services, for improving access to services for most people in the country. So towards this, I think this is the 6th or the 7th episode that we are doing. So this month we are showcasing the efforts made by Telangana in digital transformation with the use of AI. Telangana has been a leader in several digital initiatives, and more so in artificial intelligence. The policy that Telangana adopted, the kind of frameworks Telangana has built in, the kind of team that Telangana has, and the kind of application that they have taken up for implementation of AI projects. There is something to learn from all. So as part of the capacity building initiative under the National E-Governance Division, what we seek to do is to make these examples available for our state emission teams, for IT secretaries, for the IT leaders of various government of India ministries, and see to it that is there anything that we can quickly adopt, customize, and roll out. Because the pace at which things are changing, we cannot keep on waiting for ideation and then coming up with the draft reports, DPRs, and then go on to implementing. But then we will lose out in this in the race for adoption of AI-based solutions. So that's the whole background for AI Pe Charcha. And why AI? Because we all know that the way AI is impacting all our lives, we cannot not look at the adoption of AI. So whether it's agriculture or building solutions, in fact, we have several such solutions which have been built up. For healthcare, whether it relates to tuberculosis scanning or breast cancer scanning or diabetic retinopathy, or recently there was an example of X-ray Setu, in which WhatsApp linkage was built with X-ray images, and that X-ray Setu was able to diagnose COVID-19 cases without the requirement of high-end RT-PCR tests. Similarly, in the field of agriculture, also there have been huge applications, and the advantage that we have in our country for rolling out these applications is the availability of immense amount of data. So once the data sets are available and once the data standards are laid out, using them, it will be easier to develop AI-based solutions. What it does require, of course, is a policy framework for standardization of data and for policy framework for sharing of data sets with the agencies which are implementing AI-based solutions. Under the national program on AI, there's a huge initiative that's going on as per the strategy on AI that was outlined a few years back by government. So the national program of AI seeks to fast forward this, seeks to ensure that we will be able to create centers for excellence for adoption of digital for AI-based technologies, the ICTIs that are called, which will be set up in partnership with industry. Then there is initiative for building up supercomputing infrastructure in the form of Eravat, which the CDAC is taking up, and that facility will be available for governments as well as companies building AI-based solutions to use it, leverage it, run their algorithms, and refine their solutions. The data exchange platform, the data exchange policy that is being proposed under the AI national program of AI will be the most critical to it, because very often data is available, but to make it accessible in the right format across and to make it shareable with the concerned entities, that remains a challenge. So these are some of the challenges that we are looking at. Of course, the Personal Data Protection Bill and the norms with regard to sharing of data, once that is finalized, that will further fast forward the pace of adoption of AI. So what we need to brainstorm is to how to devise a strategy in which we learn from each other, we learn from states like Telangana. We learn from other states which have done it. We learn from academia. We have Professor Balasubramaniam from IIT Hyderabad. We learn from industry experts who can share the best practices from internationally, and then try to see what all we can do to fast forward adoption of AI. So this is what I would like to say in the opening remarks. There is a lot to hear from Jayesh Ranjan sir, Rama Devi, Varma Konala, Snehanshu Mitra, and Professor Balasubramaniam. So I welcome all the participants who have joined in from across the country and across various ministries and Government of India for learning from them. And I hope we'll have time for some questions and answers, so that if there are any queries or any suggestions, we will be able to address them. Those who have to ask questions, you can keep on putting that in the chat box, in the chat that is there on the call, and the speakers may, if they find time, they're able to see it, they will be able to respond it then and there. So let's try to make it an engaging conversation, which will help us in accelerating the adoption of AI in the country. So thank you for and the Telangana experts and industry experts for joining this.
Right, sir. Thank you so much. And now I would like to hand over to Mr. Jayesh Ranjan for the keynote address.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning to fellow panelists. Special greetings to Shri Abhishek Singh, CEO of NEGD, and warm greetings to all the attendees. First of all, I would like to thank NEGD, Digital India, and MeitY for giving us an opportunity, the state government of Telangana, an opportunity to speak about our AI initiatives. We are immensely grateful. I would like to mention that Telangana has always been, this is a young state, new state, as all of you would know, formed only 7 years ago. But right from day one of our existence, we have had a strong belief that technology is something which will enable our state to really make a rapid advancement in the overall socio-economic development. And we have, since then, we have followed a particular approach, which we call a multi-stakeholder approach, to build the ecosystem for any technology that we want to pursue. And that holds good for AI also. We have developed a very robust framework for AI, which has followed a multi-stakeholder approach. And gradually, a wonderful ecosystem is being built in our state. So what we do is that, as I said, we do it for various technologies. So 3 things that I would like to mention. One is that we create a policy or a framework or an approach paper, which shows the clarity of our thought. What exactly do we want to do? How do we want to do? With whom do we want to partner? So we, of course, see what the national government is planning to do. So in this case, as Abhishek ji mentioned, the national policy on AI was the guiding document, and we wanted to align ourselves with that. But we also try to understand what are the best practices globally, what are the other Indian states doing, what is the expectation of the industry, what do the academia want to contribute. And not to forget, there are lots of startups today who are making a huge transformative impact in the technology landscape. So we also try to figure out what are their ambitions, their lines of activity. So by taking inputs from everyone, we prepare a framework. So our framework was prepared 2 years ago. And we have identified 6 pillars. I'll speak very briefly about those pillars in a while. But after the framework, the next very important thing, and in my opinion, this is a key differentiator between Telangana and other states. See, good policies, good frameworks, good documents are available everywhere. I mean, I don't see any state which does not have great policies or great programs, etc. But lots of gap happens when you have to translate that policy into action. You have to translate that framework into action. And one of the reasons why that gap remains or the gap exists is that no one takes ownership of that policy or that program, etc. So in Telangana, we are very conscious of this fact. And what we do is that for every initiative of ours that we intend to carry out, we create an institution. So in this case, the institution that we have created is called TAIM, the Telangana Artificial Intelligence Mission. And this has been jointly set up between the Telangana government and NASSCOM. And one of the speakers today later in the panel is Mr. Snehanshu Mitra from NASSCOM, and he will explain more about this partnership. What have we done under the TM? What have we achieved, and so on and so forth. So I'll leave it for him to explain about TM. The next thing that we do is that we also bring in the best possible resources to run those institutions. Just having an institution for namesake on paper obviously is not going to help anyone. So my colleague will be joining you very shortly. She is the Director for Emerging Technologies, Ms. Rama Devi, and she's the head of, she's the spearhead of TM along with her team. So we have recruited people who will assist Ms. Rama Devi in actually grounding all the TM initiatives, projects, programs, etc. So these three things, the framework, the institution, and the talent to run those institutions is something which is very defining, very signature about Telangana. And of course, what are the programs that we have rolled out, etc., etc. We will be speaking briefly about all that. But let me get back to the framework. I mentioned that we have prepared a very comprehensive framework. So I would like to tell you about the framework that we have developed. As I mentioned, there are 6 pillars in that framework, and Abhishek ji alluded to some of the important themes when a country or a state has to roll out AI initiatives, and some of those points that he alluded to are actually covered in our framework pillars, and we have actually started lots of action on the ground related to some of them. So one of the most important thing, and any AI practitioner will tell this to you, that eventually everything boils down to data sets and data exchange. So in our state, in the government, we have also made our efforts to ensure that as many data sets as possible are made available to public. They are also made available in a machine readable form. They are interoperable. And we have created a portal, a dedicated portal, which is called data.telangana.gov.in, where all these data sets are there. And we have made an internal plan that in the coming 3 months, including this month of July, which is practically over, in the coming 2 months, we will ensure that as much of data sets as possible are really pushed into our portal. Then Abhishek ji referred to high performance AI computing. Of course, this is a plan included in the national policy also called IRAVAT. And our intention is also very well aligned with it. So we also want to set up high performance AI computing infra. And Professor Balasubramaniam will be speaking later from representing IIT Hyderabad. So IIT has already got the first high performance computing infrastructure. And we are setting up the second one in another state university called JNTU. And eventually we want to do more. But this is an effort which we are rolling out with the help of the private sector. Another very important responsibility for the government is to ensure the availability of talent and skill. I remember there was a NASSCOM event last year, and I guess it was also spoken during RAISE that Abhishek ji referred to, which was about how almost $500 billion worth of $500 billion worth of economic value can be released using AI, of the potential $5 trillion economy that our country can potentially aim for. But speaker after speaker after speaker pointed out that this can happen only if enough quantity and quality of talent is available. And obviously, no one else has to take direct responsibility for this except for the government. So this is something which is very important for us. We have an institution called TASK, the Telangana Academy for Skills and Knowledge. And using TASK, we have rolled out multiple levels of skilling programs. Some of them are very basic, just a basic 2-day familiarization program. From that basic end to advanced courses of 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. Till recently, I was the Vice Chancellor of the state-run university called JNTU, the Jawaharlal Nehru Technology University. And one of the key decisions which we took in my tenure was to make an AI course compulsory for every student. Whatever branch of engineering you are studying, you have to do a compulsory credit course on AI. So this shows the kind of importance that we provide to talent, education, etc. We also recognize that the government has a very, very critical role to play in setting standards for governance, ethics, privacy, because just as the theme was for raise responsible use of AI, there are also possibilities of misuse. And therefore, the governments have to be very alert and have to really lead by example in setting the standards, etc. So that is one of the verticals that we are also focused on. And we also want to promote more and more research, more and more innovation. So there are programs for startups. So for example, when I mentioned about TAIM has recently launched the RevUp Accelerator for AI startups at a MVP stage. And this is open to startups registered anywhere across India. It's not a Telangana focused program. If you are a AI startup at an MVP stage, do join the RevUp Accelerator program. The applications are currently open, and I'm getting a very good platform to plug this program. And the deadline is 31st July. So please do make use of it. And most important responsibility which the governments also need to think about is actually demonstrating its sincerity towards AI by providing as many use cases as possible. So enabling adoption of AI. And to focus on adoption, what we did was something very novel and very interesting. We declared the whole of 2020 as the year of artificial intelligence. So the entire year of 2020, of course, it was a very bad year if you look at it from a global perspective. We all suffered in this year. So, but one of the bright spots for us in the government in that year was that it was celebrated as the year of AI. And of course, there were some setbacks because of the prevailing situation, but we were able to achieve at least 80 to 85% of the goals that we had set out. And during this year, we forged amazing partnerships. We started lots of projects. And I will leave this to my colleague, Ms. Rama Devi, to speak about the projects, the initiatives, etc. But again, I'm very happy that we get this chance to tell about the Telangana story. And if state representatives are here on the call, I'll be very happy to take this discussion bilaterally. Suppose you want to also emulate or replicate some of the things that Telangana has done, we'll be very happy to give you guidance, share our documents, share the framework, explain to you about TAIM, and whatever else you know. The entire know-how is available absolutely free of cost, and it will be our pleasure to help anyone else who wants to be helped. So once again, greetings to all the participants, panelists, and thank you very much for inviting us.
Thank you so much, sir. And now I'll request Ms. Rama Devi Lanka, Director Emerging Technologies, IT, E&C Department, Government of Telangana, to give an overview of Telangana's AI initiatives and artificial intelligence for agricultural innovation, AI for AI. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Barnali. Good morning, Deshanjan sir, Abhishek Singh sir, and representatives from the state governments and NEGD team. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to showcase our experiences of what we have done in Telangana. I'm just sharing my presentation. It will take just a couple of seconds. Yeah, I broadly categorized the whole presentation into 3 sections, actually. While Jayashanjan sir has already spoken about the emerging technologies wing and how we have built the AI ecosystem, I'll speak mostly on the GovTech projects that we are actually implementing in AI. While, the reason that we are actually talking about the AI ecosystem also, in fact, as the mandate of the emerging technologies, we actually focus on 2 aspects of each technology, as Jayashanjan sir has already mentioned it. One is, how do we actually develop the ecosystem? How do we nurture the ecosystem for these technologies to grow? And the second one is, how do we adopt these technologies or leverage these technologies within the government, either to increase, efficiency or better improve service delivery to citizens and so on. So the last 3 years, we have been focusing on these technologies. Of course, AI, we just started in 2020, when we declared Year of AI. The other technologies are blockchain, drones, cloud, cybersecurity. And we believe that a combination of technologies are really going to change or impact all the sectors that the government works with. So Jayashanjan sir has already spoken about the various policies, that we bring in each of these technologies. And we have also come out with our AI framework, which outlines the foundational pillars that helps us drive, our objectives or overall vision. So for each of these, we have these institutions of excellence, you know, in each of those technologies. For the blockchain, we have blockchain district, cyber security center of excellence. E-waste, we have a center of excellence. This is again in partnership with MeitY. And the current one that Sir has already spoken about is TAIM, Telangana AI Mission, which of course Nehanshu is going to speak a lot in detail about this. Just a glimpse on the kind of volume of data that's being generated across the world. You know, if you see 3.3 zettabytes, you know, we need to think about the zeros that are going to append to it. And coupled to this is ease of storing the data. You know, the cost of data in India is about less than $1 compared to US. US, it's $8 per 1 TB of data, I think, you know. So the cost is much, much lower in India. I think as a country, we need to actually capitalize on that. Of course, high computing, you know, the cost of computing is going down. This is actually leading to the boom of AI. Well, as Jayashanjan sir has already mentioned, we have declared 2020 as the year of AI. And the key, element is partnership with academia, industry, and other government organizations is what is driving the AI ecosystem in Telangana, you know, and helping us to achieve our vision. So these pillars, sir has already spoken about. These 5 areas that we've identified in the framework are healthcare, agriculture, mobility, education, and law enforcement. You know, while we have identified these 5 areas, they're not cast in stone. We are exploring other areas. In a week or 10 days, we are going to come up with a grand challenge on climate change and forestry. You know, what are the AI use cases for that? So our TM is actually Snehanshu will be talking about that. And once we actually declared 2020 as the year of AI, it has set up a momentum, of various initiatives and programs across the state against each pillar. So the first one, we entered into a partnership with World Economic Forum, through which we have conceptualized what you call AI for AI. Again, each partnership is actually leading to some concrete, initiative, program, or a project. And the partnership with Intel, which Varma will be talking about, we set up a center of excellence in healthcare and mobility. Then on the talent development pillar, we work with Microsoft, and we are also coming out with data annotation programs and so on. So, I mean, there are many, events, programs, initiatives that are actually driving the ecosystem. So this is what we have done over the last, 1.5 years or so. We have organized 120 over events, workshops, webinars. We partner with various organizations. It's not just the government alone can do it. These are all the organizations that you see on the screen, with which we are partnering and working. So it's an amazing year that we have had on AI. So while the year of AI concluded for us, but it kickstarted the efforts and it set out a great momentum. Well, coming to the core part of it, GovTech projects using AI. While we have about 15 projects that are under various stages of implementation, I'll be talking about only 5 key projects because of the lack of time. And these projects are spread across 5 sectors. As I said earlier, agriculture, we have around 5 to 6 projects that are actually going on. I'll be talking about AI for AI and pest management, the top 2. Mobility, while Varma will be covering, I'm skipping this. Law enforcement, an interesting project that we have worked in the second one, crowd management tool, which I'll be just spending a few minutes on that. In healthcare, newborn risk assessment, this is ASHA workers. They actually visit each and every home to, assess the weight of a newborn baby. So this is in partnership with Vadvani again. It's a small smartphone-based app, wherein by taking the photograph of the child, you should be able to actually measure the weight of the baby. So again, under the e-governance, we have a couple of projects which I'll be talking about. So real-time authentication, facial recognition, and so on. I think this actually, in the first week of July, we had a meeting of IT secretaries wherein Jayashanjan sir actually spoke about it, but some of you might have missed it, so I'm just touching upon it. So it's called, as I said, real-time digital authentication of identity. So whenever you want to identify a particular person, when you're offering a government service or government benefits, 3 broad checks are performed. One is the name of the applicant, the photograph of the applicant, and just the look at the face, to see if this person is so-and-so. So we actually decided, can these manual checks be replaced by using technology? So what we are doing right now is we used an AI-based liveness check to see if the person who is actually applying for a benefit is alive. This is very much required when you're actually disbursing pensions. So AI-based liveness check is done to assess, whether the photograph shared by an applicant is a live one. The second one is, can you see my screen? Sorry. Hello.
And it is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, sorry. For me, it just became black. So yeah, the second one is, once they actually submit a photograph, is it one of the eligible beneficiaries or not? So we pick up the photograph from the database and compare it with what it has been submitted. This uses deep learning technology based image comparison. And the third one is name check. This is machine learning based demographic check. With these check, three authentication or identification mechanisms, we actually identify an individual and offer the required service. This is a very successful project that the government of Telangana has implemented for pensions, for RTA services, and even for the e-voting project that we are doing. So these are three important projects that we have implemented. The other one is crowd management. It's a very interesting one. In India and more so in all the states, we have religious festivals, we have political, congregations that happen, right? So most of the time, the police department authorities would like to know how many people are there on the site or on the place where this is happening. So every time different numbers, on the right hand, you see the guessing game goes on. Each department, police department comes its own numbers. The municipal corporation comes out with its own numbers. There's no single number as such for them. So we implemented solution, with the help of a startup called Aviros, and it's a very novel method of procurement that we did. We just put this use case on a LinkedIn platform, and we got so many responses. We just, evaluated and just picked the right company. It's based out of Delhi, this particular startup, a young startup company. And if you see at the bottom here, these changing colors, this dynamically indicates where at a particular location, there is huge density of population that's beyond a certain threshold, which immediately alerts the authorities. It could be police department officials, so they can take suitable actions, whether to divert the crowd or to close certain gates or to open certain entries and so on. This we have implemented in two very popular occasions. One is we have a religious festival. It's called Medaram Jatra, where lakhs of people congregate in 2 days. Where even the governor who visited during that time, she was very impressed by this, solution. The second one, we had a test match in our cricket ground with, I think, England or somebody. I'm sorry, I forgot the name. So these two places we have implemented, while the accuracy was about more than around 80 to 90% is what we have achieved. So moving on to next is the pest management crop. This is an interesting project that we are implementing in 6 districts of Telangana, covering around 3,000 villages. Cotton is a major crop in Telangana, and one of the pest, it's called pink bollworm. It infests the cotton crop a lot. It damages the crop, and by the time the farmer realizes the damage is already done, and he loses the produce. So it is an AI-based application wherein the farmer will have to actually take a photograph of the moths collected. Here you see the second, these are the moths. He takes a picture of that moths, then he sends this photograph, through his smartphone. The AI algorithm will actually count the moths, and it checks if it has exceeded the threshold value. If it exceeds 8 moths on 3 consecutive days, then an advisories are issued to the farmer saying that you need to actually use this pesticide or whatever. And these advisories will be given by our universities, Agriculture University. The Agriculture University has validated this solution, and all the advisories are designed based on their inputs. It's a very interesting, we just started in this season in 6 districts, which will be scaled up across later based on the success of this. In fact, Niti Aayog is also looking at this particular solution to take it to other states. And the last one that I'm going to talk about is AI for AI, which is very close to our heart, and which we are really, implementing this with a lot of passion. So this AI for agriculture innovation, we have launched this in the year of 2020. So how many minutes I have, Barnali?
Ma'am, you have time. Please go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So this we have launched this in the year 2018 during during that COVID season. Our minister has launched this. This is in partnership with the C4IR World Economic Forum. to transform the state of agriculture by deploying emerging technologies in a scalable, inclusive, and sustainable way. This is our vision of AI for AI. And all of us know the challenges that are being faced by farmers across India, irrespective of any state, and Government of India is also coming out with so many reforms to see how a farmer can double his, income. So, and it's a very thorough project that we have actually undertaken. We have set up a core group, which meets every Friday without fail, 10 to 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. And this is headed by J. Satyanarayana Garu, sir, who was former Secretary of IT. We are working this under his guidance. So the government of Telangana, where ITNC department, agriculture department, then agriculture university are partners to this with industry partners, industry and academia. So every week we have been meeting since June 20, for the last 7 or 8 months. And we have found 4 working groups, which is again represented by 60 partners across the industry value chain of the agriculture. And we have also implemented one pilot with SatSure. So getting into the details, farmer is always at the center for this initiative. So we have identified 5 personas, where farmer at the center, and markets, because at the end of the day, farmer has to sell his produce to the markets, right? And government need to come up with the right policies, frameworks for the agriculture. And you have the agri-tech innovation ecosystem on the top and agriculture industry ecosystem. So there are about 26 value nodes that we've identified, which would create impact, across the agri-value chain. So based on this, 3 working groups worked across 3, categories of value chain: intelligent crop planning. When a farmer just starts to plan his, crop, so what are the various frameworks? What are the use cases that can actually, make a difference, can bring a change or address certain problems? That's what we did in this. So if you see at the bottom, we have identified 30 use cases spread across the value chain of agriculture, right from the point 1, when a farmer starts planning a crop, to the harvesting, to the time he sells his produce. So at the bottom, if you see, these are some of the use cases at every stage we have said where technology can be used. It could be either blockchain, AI, IoT, and data, satellite data, drones. We've evaluated all the technologies. As I said, AI in combination with blockchain, with IoT, is going to solve a number of problems in agriculture. And the last one, if you see, again, data governance, which is the heart of everything that we do, using technology. So it has to be data-driven agriculture. There are certain use cases again. So as part of this, we conceptualized what you call Sagu Bagu. It's in Telugu. Direct translation is a bit, difficult because it's in a local dialect. Sagu means cultivation, Bagu means good, but a cultivation. But the literal meaning is always not right. So the impact that we intend to create by these pilot is about for 1,000 farmers spread across 1,000 villages. And we intend to carry out this, across 4 seasons. So the key difference in this is, while we have been doing a number of pilots, as I said, pest management solution, but one key differentiator in this is, for a particular crop, say if you take cotton or turmeric, so across the value chain of a particular crop, what are the areas where we can bring in technological interventions? So that's the idea here, entire life cycle crop may, what is that we can actually do with technology is what we're trying to, do through this Sagu Bagu project. Well, these are the project objectives, how do we increase productivity, production and profitability to the farmer? And how do we bring in environmental sustainability, reduce, fertilizer consumption, natural resources, water, power, and optimum utilization of resources, and of course, bring in transparency into the entire process. Well, the key thing for this is the government need to create an enabling environment, So that is one, and which in turn stimulates the growth of agri-tech services, using that enabling environment. So on the right-hand side, if you see, we have the enabling environment, setting up an agri-data exchange, which Abhishek Singh ji has already spoken about, and Ajay Shanjan sir also. This is a very, very critical part of what we are going to do. The second one is setting up an A-box, agriculture box. It's not like a sandbox that we see in the fintech space. It's something different, which I'll explain it right now. So this is the enabling environment that we are looking at. It's an overarching model, that reference model that we are looking at. This is based on the inspiration from UPI, we call here is Unified Farmer Service Interface. There we have uniform payments interface, right? So here we have the similar kind of interface. So with data providers on the right hand side, all the data through APIs will be made available to this interface. On the right hand side, if you see, all the ecosystem players, agri-tech innovation, data consumers, starting from startups to research companies to system integrators to the entire ecosystem will be making use of this whole thing. I'm not getting into the details. And this is the agri data exchange that we are actually going to build in the next 3 months. We already have a data portal, open data policy. We have certain data sets. We are actually refining those data sets so that they'll be amenable to AI algorithms. Algorithms will be able to consume them directly without the need for every company to pre-process it. A lot of, when we work with startups, they come and tell us a lot of their effort and time goes into cleaning up the data, making it in a form that is consumable by the AI algorithms. So that's what we'll do on the left-hand side. All the data, whatever the government data says that are first we identify in different sectors, including we're going to start with agriculture. That's the reason we are naming it as Agri Data Exchange. So we have, as Jayesh Ranjan sir was mentioning, McKinsey report has identified that if you unlock 15 sets in the agriculture sector alone, it could create around, or contribute around $60 billion worth of, potential to the economy. So we are actually working on that at a very, fast pace. So once, and that will make, of course, all the data policies, they'll be put in place, and, user management, all the required protocols, policies will be put in, governance mechanism will be put in place for that data. So it is a very important project that we are about to start, and we have a team in place. We are already working on it. The second component that we talked about is agriculture box. When a startup or a company comes to us with a certain innovative solution, we actually identify the solution, validate it, and then, offer the necessary support for implementing the solution. So it's a kind of a process that we already have, but we want to institutionalize that, bring in processes and, kind of a method to all the banners that we are currently facing. So the first is front-end enablement is being done by the agriculture department. When a startup comes, front-end delivery channels, because that's one of the key requirements for any company to offer their services to farmers. So that will be enabled by the agriculture department. The second, domain knowledge and business model. As I said earlier, for the pest management solution, in fact, agriculture department is giving all the necessary technical advice for us in terms of, how much pesticide, at what time, and moth calculations, statistical models, that everything is being brought by the research university. And IT&C department is playing a very critical role in terms of enablement of all these stakeholders. That is the number one thing. Second, of course, technologically, the protocols, the policies, the standards, we bring in IPR co-creation, all that will take care of it. And finally, policy enablement by the agriculture department will happen once we have the, so this is a kind of a agricultural box wherein companies can offer the solutions and to the governments, so, and we are looking at a public-private partnership, and we came up with a new word called public-private cooperation, wherein initially for the pilot, we want the companies to work on pro bono, because these companies will be funded by certain funding agencies. So the pilot, they would be actually working on a pro bono basis. For the scale up, the government will actually, take it up and on a commercial basis. So as I said, these are the various stakeholders, the farmer at the center. We have, everybody, government of Telangana, our state government, the development partners who bring in the, infrastructure for us, the startups who bring in the agtech solutions, the agri-tech companies, they have existing platforms which they can offer it to us. And we're not looking at one single, a company that's going to do it. We're looking at multiple partners coming in and offering the solutions. Agri companies, input companies, to marketing, to logistics, and insurance, of course, is one of the fastest growing area in the agriculture sector, and collect FPOs and so on. This should cover the entire ecosystem of agriculture is what we are looking at. And we are releasing the UI in the next couple of days, most probably in about 2 weeks time, to actually select a project implementing partner, PIP, project implementation partner, PIP, that's what is calling, we are naming it. And what is that we are doing it? We have identified in the Kharif three crops: cotton, chili, turmeric. These are very important crops for Telangana. For the Rabi season, groundnut and Bengal gram. And we identified where the districts where this will be implemented. And at least 5 use cases in each of these crops across the value chain, the PIP will have to implement. Multiple crops, multiple seasons, multiple geographies, and across different crop cycles. And how are we going to do it? As I said, PIP will actually onboard a consortium of partners. He may not have one single solution, right? There are a couple of solutions, a combination of solutions that need to be implemented. A blockchain for traceability, IoT sensors for your weather management or climate, soil testing, AI algorithms for your, what you call crop estimation and so on, a combination of technologies. So this PIP at the bottom, if you see, he will bring in all the consortium partners and a funding agency right now, like it could be these funding, Bill and Melinda Gates, USAID and so on. These funding agencies will be funding for this pilot alone. I'm saying for the scaling up, again, it will be the government. And if you look, this is not really visible on the right side, but just to give you a sense of it, what is that we are doing? See, if you look at the top, this is the value chain of turmeric. So right from the point, time of land preparation, then the farmer plants, then mulching happens, then harvesting. So across these stages, what are the various technologies that the PIP should bring in is what we are looking at. So in 10 days time from now, I think the EUI will be released and we will be onboarding a partner in a month's time. So this is a very important project that we are all waiting for. This is my last slide. Again, I thank NEGD for giving us this opportunity, for presenting our initiatives in Telangana. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We'll have a short question-answer session right now. We have Mr. Kumar Vineet, Special Secretary, IT&E, Government of Uttar Pradesh, joining us. May I request Mr. Vineet to kindly ask his question to Mr. Ranjan.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Sir, you had mentioned the integration of the task. Through task, you are taking a few courses. So I just wanted to know if that can be integrated through the Civil Services Academy that we have over here, or what can be the process, or if we can adopt mutatis mutandis what you are already having over there in Telangana, sir.
I'm not sure.
Perhaps sir is not there, ma'am. If you are there in the on board on this project, the academy, the TASK, which is running over the artificial intelligence courses, as Principal Secretary sir had mentioned in the opening task. So can we emulate the entire concept and entire course in our Civil Services Academy, through which we give a professional training to our civil servants, IAS and PCS both?
Sure, sir. In fact, we can share this same thing with the academy, or we also have Marichenna Reddy Institute of Public Administration, sir. MCR-HRD, it's what it's called. And usually during these training sessions for the IAS officer, they do have a session in Hyderabad too. They come over here. So we can offer them at that time also. It's whatever you think would be convenient or feasible, we are open to that, sir.
Okay. But my point was whether, as sir was saying, that AI is made an integral part through TASK for every officer concerned. So to send a batch of officer, there is one part. Other part is that we can make one module or one or two module integration into our civil services course itself, an introduction sort of thing, or just a acclimatization sort of thing for every year the course the civil servants come in. So can we do something, or something is being done on that note, if we can adopt?
Sure, sir. We'll help you with that. He worked as Vice Chancellor Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University, sir. So he was referring to a module that he has introduced in JNTU, saying that every branch of student, it could be mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, civil engineering, every student should actually go through this AI module, is what he was saying, sir. Probably, I mean, not for the government officials, but for the students he was mentioning. But that course can be made available even for the officers, as you rightly mentioned.
Right. Just one more question from you, ma'am. You had mentioned that use of artificial intelligence in crowd management. Is there a ready reckoner software or a developed thing that we can simply adopt and absorb?
Sure, sir. In fact, it has been developed and our police department actually deployed it. If you're interested, sir, I'll connect the startup to you. Maybe I'll take your coordinates or details email. I'll connect the startup. They can actually, have this solution available to you. In fact, because it's a startup, sir, we're not actually asking for IP rights because at the end of the day, they need to actually grow. So that's the reason we are giving them an opportunity to try out their solution here in our state and giving all the required data and whatever support that they need from the government. So once actually developed, we are giving them a free hand to offer it to any other, it could be either governments or any other private sector also.
Right, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Banali.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we have more questions. We have Dr. Mahendra Chilukuri. He has asked 4 questions on the theme of smart energy and smart grid. He wants to know, are smart meters and discoms using AI?
Well, that's a good question from Dr. Mahendra, because just now a week back, my colleague is also here, Minal. We were discussing exactly on the same thing, discoms, in fact, we have a startup that has this energy meters, energy reading meters, self-energy reading meters. And we are discussing with the discoms on how to actually take it forward, implementing it. A very apt question at the right time. We just had a discussion day before yesterday on that.
Right, ma'am. And Mr. Satya Chandra KS asks, are Telangana use cases available as a part of open source resource for the public?
That's a good question. In fact, we are open right now. I mean, they're not available on a portal, but we are actually preparing what you call a use case repository, which will be made available on our portal. But if, we are actually, conducting grand challenges, they're open to everybody. We want the entire ecosystem to develop, not just Telangana. Like solutions should come out from anywhere in India. Yeah.
Right, ma'am. And lastly, Mr. Ashish Saraf has requested to kindly share government recognized certification or degree for responsible AI, ethical AI, or explainable AI.
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Yes, Mr. Ashish Saraf has requested to kindly share government recognized certification or degree for responsible AI, ethical AI, or explainable AI.
Well, we haven't yet come out with a certified course on that, but that's one of our, initiatives that we want to take it forward. But we're just waiting for Niti Aayog, because recently Niti Aayog came out with guidelines for procurement of these AI solutions, ethics, ethics framework they have come out with. We're waiting for that to happen. So based on that, now we might go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, sure, ma'am. And due to paucity of time, we'll move on to our next presentation. We have with us Mr. Snehanshu Mitra, CEO of Telangana AI Mission, to give his address on Telangana AI Mission, TAIM, in partnership with NASSCOM. He'll talk about grand challenges, AI for social good, collaborative research plan, and RevUp accelerator for AI startups across India. Welcome, Mr. Mitra. Over to you.
Thanks, Banali. Thanks for inviting us today to share our views. I'll probably build on the observations that have already laid out by Mr. Ranjan and Ms. Ramadevi. Considering the amount of time available, it'll take about 10 minutes to lay out or introduce Telangana AI Mission to you. It'd be polite to leave some time at the end for Q&A. Just doing a tech check. Am I audible, visible? Can you hear me all right? My internet has not been very supportive today.
Yes, sir. We can hear you and see you. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So Telangana AI Mission was conceptualized as an outcome of state's vision to be a front runner in artificial intelligence, both in terms of developing solutions for the world and also creating social outcomes for the state by leveraging a robust innovation ecosystem. We established it in partnership, between Government of Telangana and NASSCOM under the aegis of 2020 Year of AI. So when we sat down to decide on the strategic outcomes that it is likely to create, we focused on 3 key pointers. One is the whole aspect around innovation and entrepreneurship. The second one was around skilling and capacity building. And third one was in terms of positioning Hyderabad as a global AI hub. And how we decide to sort of operationalize or execute the mandate would be through developing an ecosystem for innovators to establish Telangana as their base. We curate and execute very focused trainings around data science and AI. We have been working on creating data exchange platforms, working on setting up high performance computing infrastructure for the state, the innovators that work with us, very actively work on creation of data sets in areas that have been designated and consistent with the grand challenges in the domains that we cater to, and also a range of workshops that we conduct from time to time for the developer community. We have just completed about a year, very, very excited by the journey, the progress, and the feedback that we have received. You asked me to specifically comment on 2 or 3 things. And the first one that I would like to touch upon is the aspect of grand challenges. And very early into our operations, and we were guided by Telangana's AI framework as well, which talks about leveraging AI for social innovation. We launched a grand challenge in agriculture. And agriculture happens to be one of the priority areas for us. And through a consultative process of getting in touch with key stakeholders, subject matter experts, research centers, the Agri University, and also the Department of Emerging Technologies, we formulated a relevant set of use cases relevant for Telangana, among which precision farming, real-time price discovery, and farmer lending using output-backed credit risk assessment were the 3 use cases that we came up with. We advertised it to the entire innovation ecosystem, and each team was given about 6 weeks to work on this use case. We also put together a highly experienced jury that comprised of government representatives, tech professionals, agriculture subject matter experts, and a whole lot of other people that evaluated the entries on a range of criteria, including the innovation quotient that these solutions brought in, the operational scalability of these ideas. Some of them are very, very conceptual and do not have the potential to be scaled up. So that was one of the key considerations that we had. What kind of roadmap for implementation of pilot would they end up recommending? The unique value proposition, the social impact that they had in mind for these use cases, etc., were carefully curated. This was our first attempt, but we were very happy to see that over 50 innovators participated from across the country. Again, we were very, very clear that the quality of outcomes will be very specifically influenced by the quality of data that would make available. And hence, we put a good amount of effort in trying to curate the data sets, ensuring that it is of a certain acceptable quality. And what happened as a consequence was we had 5 very strong entries come through to the final stage. And eventually we announced the entries or submissions from CDAC Kolkata and RMSIs as winners. Now, Mr. Ranjan was alluding to this a little while back, but the way we at Telangana are differentiating ourselves is to ensure that some of these recommendations do not sort of get stalled at an ideation or a conceptualization stage. And right now, what we're doing is we are working on operationalizing the solution or the recommendations that came through the grand challenge. And we are executing it through a controlled pilot. We have identified a set of crops. We've identified a set of districts within Telangana. And we are trying to, over the next 6 months, execute the recommendations, like I said, and then see how much of it is really scalable. And if it is scalable, then of course, we would look to sort of make this information available, the solution available to as many districts as possible. That was the agriculture grand challenge. Clearly, we are very motivated by the initial success that we could find in this grand challenge. And then we're in the process of launching a similar activity very shortly in the areas of mobility and environment. These are 2 other areas that we are very, very keen on working on. Also, we recognize that it is a fact that AI research and innovation work together very, very closely. As a matter of fact, AI research acts as a catalyst to innovation. What we are also doing on creating research cohorts on artificial intelligence. And these are again guided by the priority sectors that have been laid out in the AI framework. We are working with certain academic institutions, both local as well as global, and also industry and enterprise partners to be able to come together and then support research efforts. And the kind of outcomes that we'd like to produce over here would be identification of the right kind of research areas, understanding what are the prevailing best practices globally relative to those areas, what kind of products and solutions can be developed, what kind of intellectual property can be generated, how can we provide for more publications and citations, etc. And each of these cohorts will then be mentored by industry-specific researchers, people from the enterprises community, people from the startup community who have been there, done it all, done it successfully, learned from their failures, etc. That is the kind of program that we are drafting right now on the research front. Finally, on the RevUp acceleration program that we have currently launched, and it goes on floor in the month of August itself. The whole idea is to try and create a very vibrant innovator ecosystem, and we'll try and operationalize this once again through this RevUp startup program. The RevUp startup program basically focuses on growth stage AI startups. Through NASSCOM, of course, we bring in a lot of experience for understanding the fundamental needs of growth stage startups. They have a viable sort of a product, probably a couple of paying customers. They have a certain rudimentary understanding of sales, marketing. They understand how to create a support system, but they are also very focused on seeking measurable growth, whether it is in terms of increasing the revenue base, accelerating their outreach to customers, acquiring market share. They are also investing heavily in technology so that their aspirations keep pace. And through this RevUp program, what we're doing is we're trying to engage about 200 odd very focused AI startups, specific technologies such as NLP, computer vision, products that are built out of deep learning, machine learning foundations are the kinds that would like to sort of partner. What is it that we'll try and provide as an outcome? There are 5 or 6 things that we are trying to provide for. Fundamentally, growth stage startups, like I was suggesting, are very, very desirous of increasing their industry connect. That is one area that would be absolutely trying to help them out with. They are looking to not just getting funded, but they're looking at strategic partnerships, and which is something that we are trying to facilitate through multiple investor roundtables. We are also bringing to them a set of highly qualified mentors. We are also helping them with tech credits, whether it is access to GPU compute infrastructure, also getting them introduced to markets abroad, and finally, IP harvesting. Now, we would understand that intellectual properties is an area where innovators would need to be constantly educated, coached. And this is where we are trying to bring in techno-legal experts to guide them through the whole process of creating intellectual property. So, Vanali, this is something that I wanted to sort of suggest and introduce Telangana AI Mission, just leaving the audience probably with 2 or 3 important things. Our foundational success has been very, very encouraging, and we are absolutely looking forward to build on this initial success over the next 2 years, but very happy to take any questions on the Telangana AI Mission, if there are any from the audience.
Sure, sir. We'll take another round of question and answer at the end of after all the presentations. Thank you so much for speaking to us. I now welcome Mr. Varma S. Konala, CEO, Intel AI Center, to give his presentation on Intel's AI Center, INAI, at Hyderabad, on healthcare and smart mobility. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Manali. You can hear me and see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks, Manali. Welcome, everybody. I think over the last four speakers, Abhishek ji, Jayesh Ranjan ji, Ramadevi Garu, and Snehanshu, right, touched on a few on the topics, right, and I'll expand on that. Right? So the center is called INAI, right, and I'll talk about the genesis, right. Over the past 4 or 5 years, right, we've been discussing and having a lot of conversations with both the central governments and state governments and academia, right, as AI sort of exploded, right, especially in the consumer sector, yeah, right. You've seen a lot of applications of AI, right. As this was happening, and we saw developments in other countries, like say in the US and China, for example, where the efforts have been, like say in the US, the efforts have been mostly led by the commercial sector, right, the Googles, Microsofts, and those. And if you see China, for example, right, the effort is led mostly by the government, right. So unlike those things, right, here what we wanted was really a collaborative effort between the government, the industry, and academia, right, and then work on issues that could really have a population scale impact in our country. Right? So that was a thought process, and Abhishek ji talked about that as ICTAI, right? We had lots of conversations on that in the national AI policy, right? As a result of all that, right, so we started this center, which is essentially a public-private initiative, right, with IIIT Hyderabad as the principal academic partner that we've been working for a long time, and the Telangana state government is the patron, right, from the government side, right, and Intel brings in all the industry experience and technology, architecture, and actually, conceptualizing the end product from the research stage, right? And we have two domains that we're focused on, right? So far, we heard about agriculture and a lot of other domains, right? The two domains we chose were healthcare and smart mobility, right? Part of the reason was, we already had some significant work in smart mobility at IIIT Hyderabad, and healthcare because we wanted to focus on things that would have impact on population, right? So these are the two we chose, right? And in healthcare, we have domain partner and smart mobility, right? Right now, it's still open. So if anybody on the call who wants to come and talk to us on the smart mobility, right, and then they can. And then, it's not about external collaboration, right? The center also sort of, combines all the internal efforts in IIIT also among various departments, so that all the applied AI initiatives come under one umbrella, right? We have a technology incubation hub that's funded by DST that focuses on data-related solutions and data sets, right? That's also an integral part of this center. Now, before I get into a little bit details on the objectives and what projects we're doing as part of the center, right? Just a little bit on how things have changed over the past maybe 10 years in terms of the development, right? If you see previously, the focus has been sort of on the compute side, right? As a, more and more compute getting available every, 1.5 years. But over the past 4 or 5 years, the focus has shifted to data, right? Now everybody talks about the amount of data that's getting generated every day and data doubling every year, right? What has this led to is how developers are developing applications and solutions. I mean, traditionally, we used to start out with okay, this is a theory, and then you sort of, codify that theory and write a program, and then actually test out that program. But now that paradigm completely changed. If you see most of the development happening, it starts out with taking data and then, put some algo on it and then come up with a solution, right? So data has become integral, right? As you heard from many speakers, and as you probably know yourself, right, from all the things you see out there, right? So this is one key aspect, right? But if you see most of the startups, right, as Snehanshu talked and others talked, right, although everybody wants data, quality data has been a big problem, especially open source quality data. So as part of the center, right, we said we'll do 3 major things. The first thing is in these 2 domains, healthcare and smart mobility, right? Annotated and curated data sets, right? For every startup right now in these 2 domains, right? This is a big issue. They go get data, but they have to spend a lot of time even after they get raw data annotating and curating, right? So this is especially if you look at India, right? There are data sets outside India for Western populations, but for some of the specific areas we're looking at, like cancer and diabetes and TB, the good Indian data sets are not available in open source. So that's one area. The second one is, well, once you get this data and curate it, you need to have a platform to share it, right, with all the people in an open and secure manner. Again, if you look at healthcare, right, you need to have some sort of secure federated learning as part of your platform, so that you can share data with startups and other researchers, while also keeping privacy and security in mind. So that's the second aspect. So tools and frameworks, right, to share the data. Right? The third one is actually developing algorithms and tools using all this stuff. Okay, you collected data, you have good data, now what, right? You need to have some outcomes and solutions based on this that are actually having an impact on the population. Right? So these are the three major vectors, I would say, under which we are organizing our programs. Right? So we do all these things, and then we open it up for researchers and startups, right, that can take this and they can build their own solutions on top of this thing, right? With this, let me get to the two domains, right? Healthcare and smart mobility, and specifically what we're doing. Right? I'll skip this. Go to the next one. I'll go to the smart mobility. Right. First thing, data sets. Right. If you see the data sets, right. So this is something that we've been doing almost for the past 3-4 years at IIIT. Where we have put together something called Indian driving data set. If you see in the domain of advanced driver assistance and autonomous driving solutions, each company that is developing these solutions is almost sort of collecting their own data, and there's not much outside there, right, in the open source. And even whatever data is available out there in open source, it's essentially in Western environments, right? Mostly data collected in US, Europe, or other areas, right? So as far as India is concerned, right, there wasn't any. So we spent a lot of time over the last 3-4 years, right, and put together this data set. So this is the only big open source data set for Indian driving conditions. And we have a big user base right now using this data set to develop algorithms. And we continue to right, add new dimensions to this data set. This is the first one. Right? Second one is the algorithms and toolkits that are done on top of this, right? So here actually we're putting together a platform where the same equipping a car with lots of sensors, cameras, lidars, and all this, and we'll be unveiling this soon. We're having conversations with both the TIM and Telangana government to sort of have a challenge around this thing, so that it's available to a lot more researchers, and we have a time-bound challenge so that we can have solutions out there based on the platform. And the top one is actual solutions based on all this thing, right? What impact would have out there in the society. So here we actually have specific pilots and programs that we're doing that are aligned to Vision Zero. So Vision Zero is the government's vision to reduce the number of accidents and reduce the number of lives lost on our roads. This is actually one metric where we're on top of the world, but would rather be on the bottom of the world, right, in terms of number of accidents and lives lost on the roads. So here we actually have a lot of good technology, right? Intel has a company called Mobileye, right, which has developed a lot of good solutions just based on camera. You put a camera on the dashboard, and the camera, a lot of AI solutions are built into the camera. Based on the camera, it can give you advanced warning of a forward collision, right, or a side collision. Those 1-2 seconds of advanced warning can help a driver take action, right? So we're actually already started active pilots and planning one in Telangana, right? So that all this technology can actually result in, right, having a real impact on the society, especially in this one, right, in avoiding accidents and saving lives. Right? So that's a big program, right, as part of the center, right? Then let's go to healthcare, right? This again, we after we looked at lots of areas. Again, this is a broad thing. We can do lots of things, right? But we wanted to be focused and selected 4 major areas that we want to work in. The first one is public health. This is a big area for us, and also if you look at from the data sets, from the solutions, and actual impact on the ground, right? The first thing is, if you see our public health system in terms of the reach, we have a lot of infrastructure in terms of the PHCs and the subcenters, but in terms of the coverage, it's still not high, right? Only if you take a PHC, right? Only 10 to 15% of the population covered under that PHC actually get visit the PHC and take medical help, right? So this is where we can actually use technology and right, using the same resources, cover a lot more people. Right? That's one aspect. The second aspect is actually data sets in this domain, right? If you see a lot of the data sets in healthcare today, they're all of sort of what we call disease data, right? A lot of the startups in this area are, hey, I can help, say, a radiologist look at an X-ray much faster, right? Or look at a CT scan much faster, right? So those are all sort of helping the doctors be more productive of people who are already having the disease. But what the real impact is if you can actually predict based on the data sets, right? If you can predict that this person is going to have, get cancer or TB or diabetes, say 3 to 4 years advanced, right? That's a real impact. That's when you can have a real impact. So to do that kind of stuff, you need to get data sets of people who haven't had the disease yet, so that you can correlate between these data sets of people who have the disease and correlate with data sets people who haven't had the disease, and then come up with these algorithms. Right? So that's one area of focus in the public health, right? Collecting that kind of data sets. Second one is just based on what I said, right? Cancer, right? This is other than diabetes and heart diseases, this is one big one big area, right, where it's growing, and then any impact we can have in this area, right, will actually save lives, right? There are multiple things we're looking at, but in a couple of areas, we actually already started on-ground implementation with a couple of NGOs in Telangana. The first one is oral cancer. Just to give a brief idea about it, right? This is, if you can do proper screening of oral cancer, you can actually detect it a lot earlier, and it can be completely be cured with simple solutions. So the whole point is about screening. And again, you can't do large scale screening because you don't have enough cancer specialists to go around and screen. This is where we are developing a solution just based on simple camera, right? So that the nurses and technicians can go out and using the camera, take the images, and the AI algorithm can help them, right? Screen much larger population than they would do otherwise. The third one is mental health. Again, even prior to COVID, right? This was probably a lot bigger issue than we think it was, but especially with COVID, this is going to be a lot bigger problem down the line, especially among the younger population. So we're looking at a couple of projects where we can actually look at the habits, like say their music listening habits or social media habits, take those as a pointers of early depression and mental health problems. So we're actually looking at a couple of projects using that kind of data. And the last one is drug discovery, right? This I won't talk too much because there is some work underway, and we'll make a public announcement sometime. And this here, it's a little bit ambitious, right? If you see drug discovery over the past 4 or 5 years, earlier what used to be, say, 10 to 15 years of timeline essentially got now compressed into 4 to 5 years using AI-based techniques, right? And it can get compressed a lot more. But on this one again, right, there are data sets out there, but the kind of data set that we are working on right now is sort of disease agnostic, and which doesn't have any biases, that can be used by we plan to put it out in open source, which can be used by a lot of companies to develop solutions. It's a little bit ambitious, but we'll see how that goes. These are the two areas. One last thing, and then I'll wrap up, right? This is more about the process, right? Here we are actually doing collaboration among multiple things, right? Government, industry, and academia, right? And other startups too, right? I'll touch on a couple of things, right? The whole point of this institute is actually build solutions, right? Take it from research using the AI technologies and put it out in the market, right? So there are a lot of considerations that we did right at the beginning of forming this institute, and we keep doing this thing, which is about typically research takes a lot longer, right? I mean, just think of years, but we want to do something in quarters, not years, so that we can put something out there, right? And also in terms of actually thinking about the end product and the end consumer in mind. Okay, I'm going to develop this algorithm, right? But how am I going to actually get it out into the market so that it can be deployed in the field, right? So we have all these considerations in the mind so that whatever we're developing as part of the research, right, actually gets out into the market and has a real impact. Okay, that's pretty much right. So our focus is in healthcare and smart mobility, and actually developing solutions that can have a real impact out there in the society.
Thank you so much, sir. I now invite Dr. Vineet N. Balasubramanian, Head AI and Associate Professor, IIT Hyderabad, to give his presentation on AI at IIT Hyderabad, a holistic academic approach. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for this kind invite and opportunity to share research, AI research at IIT Hyderabad, and to present perhaps the academic dimension of Telangana's AI efforts. So thank you very much to all the organizers and specifically the dignitaries from Government of Telangana. So as most of you know, IIT Hyderabad is one of the second generation IITs that was started in 2008. And over the short lifespan of about 12 to 13 years has gained reputation as one of the top institutions in the country. And one of the unique efforts of IIT Hyderabad has been in the space of artificial intelligence. And unlike many other institutions in the country, which have centers in AI that bring together expertise from different departments, from different spheres of life, IIT Hyderabad took a conscious decision to start a Department of Artificial Intelligence 2 years ago, about 2.5 years ago. And maybe let me start with motivating why a need for a separate Department of Education in artificial intelligence itself. Historically, if you see, AI has always been considered a sub-branch or a subfield of computer science. And scientists and researchers and engineers that work in AI have been produced by the computer science department in different institutions across the world. However, in the last few years, AI has started having an existence of its own. Today, to even apply AI in, say, like what the previous speaker mentioned in, say, healthcare or mobility, requires significant expertise of the domain as well as the technologies underlying AI itself. So we recognize this and realize that AI is soon becoming a horizontal across all disciplines. Today, for someone to know AI from a holistic perspective, they need to know topics in computer science, of course. They need to know topics in electrical engineering like signal processing, topics in mathematics, which form the foundations of AI, topics in mechanical engineering, such as robotics and control theory, topics in biomedical engineering, like computational neuroscience, topics in liberal arts, like AI and ethics, especially for something like responsible AI. I think exposing students to AI and ethics early in their education is going to be a significant impact creator for generating students that can actually be industry ready. And also teach perspectives of, say, design from human-computer interfaces in AI and so on and so forth. So the Department of AI effectively at IIT Hyderabad strives to provide this holistic perspective from the perspective of both research and pedagogy. So I'll probably briefly try to spend, I know I have a limited time, briefly try to spend the remaining minutes on talking about some of our efforts, both on the research front as well as on the pedagogy front. And as many of you may know, IIT Hyderabad was also known for starting the first bachelor's in AI program in the country 2 years ago. When we started it, we think we were third in the world after MIT and CMU. And we've also had the opportunity to influence many other institutions across the country in creating curriculums to offer similar programs. I'll talk about this a little later as we go to. So there are about 25 to 30 different faculty across different departments in IIT Hyderabad that are affiliated with the AI department. So we have faculty that work in areas of deep learning, machine learning, Bayesian data analysis, computer vision, speech processing, natural language processing, predictive analytics, high dimensional data analysis, AI and design, robotics, AI and high performance computing, AI, IoT and communication, computer architecture for AI to create embedded AI solutions, and so on and so forth. And the purpose is to expose students in the department that get enrolled with the department and get enrolled with programs in the department to get perspectives of all of these different facets of AI, because it's very difficult to say where one ends and where one begins in today's world that we all live in. In terms of specific projects that I can highlight that faculty, that my colleagues and faculty at IIT Hyderabad have been involved in, there have been several application domains that these projects have spanned. One of the efforts has been in security and surveillance. In fact, one of the faculty at IIT Hyderabad works with the Hyderabad police, in fact, specifically the traffic police, to be able to analyze video feeds from the CCTV cameras. So there have been efforts to automatically detect whether a person is wearing helmet or not. In fact, there have also been efforts in trying to find out whether from CCTV camera footage, can you find out if a chain snatching event has happened and be able to alert authorities on the event, and so that it can be intervened on in a reasonable time frame. We've also had efforts similar to what all the previous speakers mentioned, especially Mrs. Ramadevi mentioned. We've part of the efforts on AI for agriculture with the Telangana government, as well as we have some independent projects with the Telangana State Agricultural University, where we use AI for what is called plant phenotyping using drone video footage, so on and so forth. We also have faculty working on AI for healthcare, partnering with institutions like LV Prasad Eye Hospital, Asian Institute of Gastroenterology, so on and so forth. In fact, IIT Hyderabad, also similar to the Department of AI, also has a unique department called the Department of Climate Change, which offers programs in climate change. And there are faculty there to trying to use AI techniques for climate change and climate understanding, which I'm quite sure all of us know is a very important topic at a global level. There are faculty who work on e-commerce, such as the recommendation systems that you see, say, with Flipkart or Amazon or similar systems. We have faculty in the physics department that use AI for astronomy and aerospace. In fact, we have faculty who are part of the Large Hadron Collider project in Switzerland, where also machine learning and AI is used to understand the data that comes out of the system. We also have collaborations with the state government, where we get live financial data from the government. And there are faculty who do data analytics on identifying anomalous patterns in the data, and to be able to give this feedback to the government, again, for decision making in terms of the financial data that is produced in the state. And we also have efforts on a group of faculty are also working on initiatives in smart transport and smart cities. In fact, very recently, about a couple of months back, one of the technology innovation hubs in the country called TIHAN, which is located at IIT Hyderabad, inaugurated one of the first test beds for autonomous navigation inside the IIT Hyderabad campus. So in addition to these projects, all the faculty at IIT Hyderabad strive to publish their research in high impact conferences and journals across the world, because at the end of the day, there are multiple levels of impact an academic institution needs to have. Of course, project impact to help the society, impact on training students that are industry ready, but also to ensure that India is in the global map in terms of research at the highest level. And these publications aim to serve that particular purpose. Maybe I'll highlight a few specific projects before I talk about the pedagogical side of our efforts. One of the recent efforts is by a colleague of mine, Dr. Shiv Govind Singh, who developed an AI-powered low-cost point-of-care COVID testing kit, which was in fact tested with patients at the ESIC hospital in Hyderabad. This test kit could provide results in 20 minutes, and it's something very cheap and could be deployed at a very large scale. One of my other colleagues works on embedded AI, and he's developed a system for a device in particular to be able to monitor ECG data in real time and use AI and machine learning algorithms to be able to identify and predict markers for cardiovascular disease. And in fact, an embedded AI startup has emerged out of his efforts, which we hope will be successful in the years to come. And while I talked about a few system level efforts, application level efforts, say in smart security and surveillance, in agriculture, in healthcare, both COVID and otherwise, it's also important for an academic institution to do foundational research in AI and machine learning. And we have faculty who do that too, to do fundamental research in AI and machine learning. And one of the efforts that has received attention and has been adopted around the world is one of the works that's done by our group here at IIT Hyderabad, where we work on explainable AI. I know that question came up, and for an effort like RACE, responsible AI, I think, in fact, the NITI Aayog's national strategy on responsible AI highlights explainable AI as a very, very important dimension in being able to generate trust in these AI models. And this particular system that's been developed tries to use causal principles to explain deep learning models. And a similar such method that was developed a couple of years ago is being used around the world to explain the decisions of deep neural network models, including for explaining the decisions of COVID prediction in chest X-ray images. So beyond these research efforts, as I mentioned, one of the key motivations for the AI department is to skill people in a holistic perspective to AI. So there are various programs that are offered from that perspective by the AI department at IIT Hyderabad. The BTech in AI was a landmark hallmark program that was started at IIT Hyderabad in the country, the third in the world to the best of our knowledge. And it has attracted significant talent. In fact, the admission is through the joint entrance exam, the JEE admission exam. And we've had students who could have got computer science at IIT Hyderabad who chose the AI program at IIT Hyderabad, which probably speaks about the demand for such undergraduate programs in the country too. And many of the faculty in the department have been involved in proliferating the curriculum we designed, in helping many other institutions design their own BTech in AI or BTech in data science curricula across the country. We also offer a master's in AI since 2017. And the purpose of the master's in AI program, rather than just be a specialization in AI in, say, in the computer science department or any other department, is that today, once again, AI is being adopted by people from different departments. So while an MTech in computer science is accessible only to BTech in computer science students, a lot of the students that want to do a master's in AI come from different backgrounds, perhaps a civil engineer, perhaps a chemical engineer, perhaps a design person with a design background. And the purpose of offering a master's in AI is to allow all of these students who have the right foundation, who have the right passion, to be able to enroll in these master's programs and once again graduate with a perspective that's perhaps more industry ready. We also offer a PhD exclusively in AI, which has received a good amount of response for exactly the same reason, because there have been, in fact, one of the best responses we've received for the PhD in AI program is actually from the workforce, from the working professionals who probably missed the bus early in their years to do a PhD, but now they work in AI-related areas in the industry and now want to do a PhD in the AI for their own individual interests or perhaps in business interests of their startups or companies or whatever it may be. So the AI department allows students from different backgrounds to apply for a PhD in AI program, and which we hope will expand in years to come too. Beyond this, we also offer a professional program in AI and emerging technologies, which is open to anybody. So for all the AI training programs that different IITs and IIITs in the country offer, they're all offered to students that are enrolled in these institutions. Right? Unfortunately, that population is only a sliver of the entire student population in the country. So realizing that need, we started a professional program in AI and emerging technologies where any student in the country can come and spend a summer with us, about 5 to 6 weeks, where they are trained in the latest and greatest of AI and emerging technologies, and hopefully will be more ready for when they graduate, or some of them even take a job break and come and do this to be able to transition into better roles in the industry. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we could not have the immersive experience in the last couple of years, but we hope that once the situation improves, we'll again be able to host the students on campus to give them that immersive education experience within the IIT campus. We also offer a master's program in data science, which is a real-time online program offered in the weekends for working professionals. We've actually been doing this for about 6 years now, much before COVID, where we teach people from the industry and help them get a MTech degree by not leaving their jobs at all. We've been doing this for the last 6 years, in fact, and this has been a reasonably successful program where many working professionals have already graduated, transitioned to data science roles in the industry, and also are in leadership roles at this point in time in different organizations across the country. Not just industry, but also government organizations like CDAC and many other organizations have enrolled in this particular program. We also offer what is called a minor in AI for our BTech students, where somebody could be doing a BTech in civil engineering, but could get a minor in AI. Right? So because, as all of you know, today, even in a topic like civil engineering, somebody could want to do, say, structural health monitoring, where AI techniques are used to examine the structures of bridges or railway tracks or so on and so forth. So such a program allows a BTech in civil engineering student to register for minors in AI to once again get that perspective before they graduate and go for higher studies or the industry to practice their knowledge. So the BTech in AI, which is, as I said, one of our marquee programs, has about 25 seats. It's a focused program that integrates multiple disciplines, as I already mentioned: computer science, electrical engineering, math, mechanical engineering, biomedical engineering, liberal arts, so on and so forth. And what the program tries to do is to give a very strong foundation in mathematics in the first year, especially to expose students to linear algebra, probability, calculus, stochastic processes, differential equations, control theory, so on and so forth. And to also provide a core AI learning from different core subjects in AI. They do machine learning, deep learning in their second year, topics such as reinforcement learning in their third year, as well are mandated to take a few electives such as natural language processing, computer vision, speech processing during their undergrad, do some basic theoretical courses in machine learning, as well as fulfill some elective credits in emerging technologies such as quantum computing or IoT, so on and so forth. They, in fact, also have a mandatory course in AI and ethics. And the hope is that when these students graduate out of the BTech in AI, they get a holistic perspective from all of these disciplines and are hopefully more industry ready. And in fact, we also have independent research projects as part of the curriculum, where already students work on problems that come from the industry as part of their coursework credits itself. So once again, the hope is that this will bridge the gap between what academia provides in AI and what the industry expects out of the students. We also have some core CCA subjects so that the students are ready to write a GATE exam in one of these dimensions. One of the core aspects of any pedagogy and research in AI is the research facilities. So as Sri Jayesh Ranjanji mentioned in the beginning, so we have a state-of-the-art AI data center that has NVIDIA DGX1s and DGX2s, high-end workstations with distributed storage. And IIT Hyderabad is also privileged to be a part of one of the first implementers of the National Supercomputing Mission, which has a 650 teraflop facility that hopefully will go live in about a month from now. So this facility of AI research is located in one of our buildings here. So IIT Hyderabad also is the host for the first NVIDIA AI Technology Center in the country. NVIDIA has similar centers in different parts of the world, but their first and only one in India at this point is in IIT Hyderabad. And what this enables is allows the faculty and students at IIT Hyderabad is to work with NVIDIA researchers, as well as gain access to state-of-the-art computational infrastructure at NVIDIA to work on problems of social impact. Currently, we work on our agriculture projects, as well as on our projects to analyze text and social media tweets and so on and so forth. And IIT Hyderabad has been lucky to have a very close international partner in Japan since its very inception. Japanese researchers, designers, architects have been involved in even design of buildings at IIT Hyderabad. And there's a very close relationship between and exchange of students and faculty between Japan and IIT Hyderabad. A couple of key projects include AI for Agriculture, which is a collaborative project with the Telangana State Agricultural University, University of Tokyo in Japan, as well as IIT Hyderabad, as well as on intelligent transport systems, which is a collaborative effort between researchers from Japan and faculty from IIT Hyderabad. We have close academic collaborations with several universities in Japan, including University of Tokyo, Riken AIP, Nihon University. We also collaborate a lot with industry in Japan, including AIST, Weather News, Takenaka, SMS Data, TerraDrone, I'm Beside You, Fujitsu, so on and so forth. And a significant number of companies from Japan come for placements to IIT Hyderabad to recruit students, especially with expertise in AI. So we are very grateful to all the collaborators that work with us in different aspects, government collaborators like the Government of Telangana, Telangana State Police, State Agricultural University, DRDO Labs, which has an extensive presence in Hyderabad, LV Prasad Eye Institute. We are lucky to have UN-based ICRISAT at Hyderabad too, as well as multiple industry players like Microsoft, Intel, Honeywell, as well as many other academic institutions that we collaborate with around the world. Okay. I'll stop there. I know I'm probably already over time, and I'll invite anybody to come and visit us once the situation improves. We'll be happy to host you and show you around. Thank you again for allowing us to share this perspective with all of you today. Thank you.
Thanks very much, sir. We'll have the last Q&A round with the participants. So Naresh Deshmukh asks, can AI be used for crop insurance claim settlement? Is it already implemented, or is there a plan to include this in the future? Any of the speakers would like to answer? Yes, Rama ma'am. Ma'am, we are unable to hear you. If you can unmute.
Yes. Yeah, in fact, we are talking to two startups, in this particular area. Insurance is one of the most important areas in agriculture. And we have Satshore, a local Indian startup that is actually, have some solution that's another one. Second one, there's a startup from US approached us saying that they got some grant from, Stanford SRI, they call it Stanford Research Institute, and they want to actually develop a product that is suitable to the Indian context. So we are working on that, but they are still in the initial stages. Yeah.
Right, ma'am. And the last question from Chokalingam Muthian. This is to Mr. Konala. Is the data set ready for oral cancer? Can you also let me know how the images are collected through mobile phone camera?
Sure. Actually, we just kicked off the project. So we have the NGO called Grace Foundation that has 5 buses that is going all over Telangana, right? So hopefully in another 3-4 months, right, we'll have, we're just starting to deploy, right? Another 3-4 months we'll have the data, right? I mean, he can follow with me offline. I can give more details on how the actual, data is being collected with the phone and all that, right? So we take around 9 images with the phone, like at a high level, right? I can get into more details offline.
Well, thanks very much to all our esteemed speakers for taking our precious time and joining us on AI Pe Charcha today. And many thanks to all our viewers for joining us for viewing with their valuable suggestions and queries. That's all.